imaginary? Imaginary.
6 hours, 42 minutes, 12 seconds. Do you believe in time travel?
I'm going to tell you a little story today about a young man whose life was completely destroyed by fear.
You want to tell Mom and Dad why you stopped taking your medication?
Welcome back to the show, everybody.
Happy October. This is the beginning of our fun October spooky lineup.
It is indeed. And we've got some very spooky movies coming at you.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun month.
I like it. I agree very much so.
We get to change up the theme a little bit.
Yeah, new songs.
It's not Sylvester. It'll change every episode.
Yeah, and I think we're starting on a good movie. Everybody out there listening, my name's Pete.
And I'm Scott. And these are the movies that made us gay.
Yes, indeed.
So, this summer, we had a little listener poll on our Instagram stories. We kind of had a bee in our bonnet to do a Jake Gyllenhaal movie. So we asked all of you, who did you want to? What movie should we talk about? Mm-hmm. And it was overwhelmingly Donnie Darko. Surprise, surprise! I had a feeling that it would land on Donnie Darko.
Yeah, and here we are.
So we invited over one of my favorite guests on the podcast, Michael Morgan. Welcome back.
Well, thank you for having me. That's quite an introduction.
For our Jake Gyllenhaal special episode, our very Jake Gyllenhaal special episode.
I am very excited to talk about this movie.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, we watched Donnie Darko, released October 22nd, 2001. And just sort of this movie's journey from being made in Southern California, subbing for the East Coast, debuting at Sundance and not being very well received. And then it was picked up by Christopher Nolan's production company. And then when it came out fall of 2001, it tanked, surprise, surprise. Because guess what happened in September of 2001? Ooh.
Yikes.
Yeah, audiences weren't looking too forward to watching like jet engines fall out of the sky.
Well, yeah. I actually saw it in the theater opening weekend.
Wow. Did you see it at the Sunset 5?
No, I was in college at the time, and I was in Irvine, and there was an Edward Cinema across the street, rest in peace.
Work at an Edward Cinema in Irvine.
It was at that time, I was a film major, so in college I was going every weekend to see anything that was coming through.
Yeah.
And it was one of those like pleasant surprise strolling through the DVD bin where I had no clue what I was sitting in to watch. I was 19. I was the right age. I remember just like loving it. And you're right. I kind of remember it not doing well at the time. And I mean, I could talk for 40 minutes on this. I always remember the story too that Drew Barrymore sort of saved it, or she was a producer. But when you watch it, it feels luxe. I was like, they spent money. There's a budget here. Even though it's an indie, it's a small film, there were definitely expectations. The soundtrack alone.
The soundtrack alone is great. Beautiful camera work in this movie. Like, it is very well shot.
Yes. And it's funny because now it feels almost naturalistic, whereas at the time it felt super stylized. It felt very like retro, vintage. Wow, they're doing this 80s look. Mm-hmm. But now things are art directed so heavily that it feels like, like more naturalistic.
Yeah. And also, it had a big cast for being such a like small, quote unquote, movie.
Drew Barrymore and Patrick Swayze are two pretty heavy hitting actors in Hollywood.
Mary McDonald as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So the Gyllenhaal siblings.
The Gyllenhaal siblings. Yep.
And the chemistry is there.
It is there.
I think it was Richard Kelly when talking on the commentary or something of that when his casting director mentioned, "Oh, Jake has a sister and she's really good," and he's like, "Well, why would I cast Jake's sister while I could just get the real thing?" So Maggie was kind of a no-brainer.
Yeah. And of course we haven't even mentioned the legendary Beth.
Oh, Beth Grant?
Beth Grant. Take Jennifer Connelly's 2001 supporting actress away and give it to Beth Grant. She's so good in this movie.
She is actually really good. And Beth Grant does that thing where she can play these, and forgive me for using the term shrew characters, but she gives them this heart that when it comes down to these moments of like, you know, I don't think that you are fully, you know, committing to sparkle motion, you just feel for her.
I mean, she really does. Yeah, that's
you know?
such an iconic line.
And even in something like Speed, where you're just like, stay on the bus, crazy lady, but you just feel for her and the anxiety and all that. She just does that character really, really well. And yeah, she's great in The Office. And the dinner party episode.
Oh, that's right. She comes there as
she's Dwight's date / former babysitter.
That's right.
Yeah, and she really helps sell the. I mean, this film is a very multi-hyphen genre, and she really helps sell the comedy.
Yeah.
And again, I mean, I could talk endlessly. This feels very forward in that, or influential in that, you know, it's like 6 different genres. It's a period piece in the way that like a lot of streaming services do series now, like Stranger Things and It Follows, or one of those, Ty West or Adam Wingard films.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
And I feel like at the time, Richard was never beating you over the head with references or like Easter eggs to other movies. Like, they're clearly there. Like the kind of the sapphire coming out of the chest is very like The Abyss. Them riding their bikes in the dark, that kind of reminds me of E.T.
There's a little Poltergeist in there.
Yeah.
A little Halloween.
But I feel like it never beats you over the head with it.
I agree.
It's kind of properties do now.
Its references are more sophisticated and subtle.
Yeah. It's like kids aren't like running around in like, you know, tube socks and
right.
Like, you know.
Oh God, yeah.
And like dolphin shorts and all that.
And then there's like crazy wallpaper and the lighting scheme's neon pink and orange. Yeah. And, you know, you're like,
it
okay.
didn't quite all look like Saved by the Bell.
This was not 1988.
I do have to say, the Darko's kitchen looks very modern for being 1988.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if just
I wasn't paying attention.
your random family would have a stainless steel.
Oh, the stainless steel fridge.
They are like country club Republicans.
They look a little affluent.
And it kind of goes out of its way, which again, unfortunately, with that modern political, like I just kept seeing them as like old school Republican, and then Beth Grant as the like Trumpian, like new like level of like.
They just don't want to be hit hard with their taxes,
right?
Yep.
I feel like the mother character, Mary McDonnell. Maybe I feel like in another version she could have been like the ex-hippie like mom, and the dad being a little bit more like staunchly Republican.
Those moms that would secretly vote,
the
other way, and because not tell her friends.
Yeah, exactly. Because she was there, like
she might be voting for Dukakis.
Yeah,
in the '88 election.
I don't know, Dukakis, man. I know he was on the ballot, but damn, what an election. That was not much to choose from with those two.
So before we get too into discussing the movie, this is our 6th Drew Barrymore movie that we've done.
Oh my goodness!
So
as it should be.
You've been on for Poison Ivy, that really fun episode. But the 6 are Never Been Kissed, Batman Forever, Poison Ivy, Scream, Charlie's Angels, Full Throttle, and now Donnie Darko.
Wow! And this is our first Flower Films production. Is it? No.
I mean, we've covered other Flower films before on the podcast. But before we get too far into it, I put together a little Drew quiz.
Love it.
Ooh.
All
right. So, of all of these movies, if you need like a reminder, just ask me. What is the least amount of screen time of all of these movies that she's had? So, when I did these numbers, I did count the entire scene, even though the scenes sort of cut away from her sometimes. So I did count the entire bulk of the scene.
I think I'm pretty confident in my answer. How about you, Peter?
Yeah, I believe so. Why don't you go ahead and...
I would assume it's Batman.
Yeah, I would
Forever.
have to say Batman Forever.
Both Batman Forever. She is in about 9 minutes of that movie.
Okay.
Oh, that's
That's surprising.
9 minutes.
That's
So-
what I would have thought Nicole Kidman's figure was.
So Scream, she's in about 12 minutes and 34 seconds.
okay.
If you're going to clock that entire opening.
Very memorable 12 minutes.
Yeah.
So,
So we were right on that one with 9 minutes.
yep.
All right, you're correct. Yay!
So, what was the highest grossing movie of this bunch?
Oh.
Give me the options again.
Never Been Kissed, Batman Forever, Poison Ivy, Scream, Charlie's Angels, Full Throttle, or Donnie Darko?
Unfortunately, it's, again, probably Batman.
I think I got to go with Batman.
Yeah, it was over $336 million. What is the lowest grossing movie?
Ooh.
I'm gonna say Poison Ivy because it's very indie. Probably didn't get a big release.
I'm going to go with Donnie Darko.
So you would think it would be Donnie Darko, but I guess that Donnie Darko's box office gross did come back around when it was released in Europe. Like, I think it was a semi-sleeper hit in England.
All right.
So it is Poison Ivy, and that grossed just under $2 million.
Oh, wow.
In a very under-the-radar release.
Wow.
Which of these movies came out first?
Poison Ivy?
Yeah.
Poison Ivy.
I was like, did you say Firestarter?
I know. Was E.T. on this list?
What movies of this group were released in the summer?
Oh.
Okay.
Summer
we can
releases.
do this. We can
Yep.
do this. Not Scream. Scream did not come out in summer. Batman did.
That was a December Christmas release.
Right.
Scream?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. So Batman
did.
Okay.
Yep. Batman Forever. And what's the other one?
Probably Charlie's Angels?
Yes.
Charlie's Angels
absolutely.
Full Throttle came out, I believe, June of 2003.
So did Never Been Kissed.
Never Been Kissed was April, so
Oh,
spring.
wow.
Mm-hmm.
But we got.
No, I thought I was right.
But those two were correct, and that's it?
You're right. Which of these movies are flower films?
Ooh, I've got to say Never Been Kissed is.
I would say Never Been Kissed. And
Never Been Kissed, I believe, is the first flower film.
Okay.
Yep. In 1999. And what are the other two?
Okay, so Donnie Darko.
Donnie Darko, yep.
And
Not Batman. Not Batman.
Charlie's Angels?
Yeah.
It was
She's
Charlie's
definitely-
Angels, yep.
'cause
Mhm.
I've read she made an insane amount of money off
Oh,
of Charlie's
yeah.
Angels,
Okay.
so I think her company was...
Okay.
Well, and I think that probably
Matrix money.
the wild
Sure.
success of Drew Barrymore in the early 2000s did help this movie, Donnie Darko, get made. With the amount of money
Absolutely.
for an independent movie
Right.
that you normally wouldn't put towards a bizarre movie like this, Drew just kind of had this way of that I'm going to be playing the English teacher in this movie, and I'm
Yeah.
producing it.
They were. I wonder how it was pitched or sold. I'm assuming they were like, it's like American Beauty meets like a Stephen King novel.
And Twin Peaks. I don't know.
And Twin Peaks, yeah, like exactly.
Yeah. But we also can't, we'd be remiss if we failed to mention Drew's partner, Nancy Juvonen.
Yeah.
Mrs. Jimmy Fallon.
And Nancy is like a main producer on Donnie Darko. She's not an exec. So, two other questions really quick.
Ooh.
Which of these movies was almost rated NC-17? When
Poison
they
Ivy.
put it,
Scream.
when they put it to the MPAA, they brought it back with an NC-17.
I'm saying Poison Ivy.
Scream.
It's Scream.
It's Scream!
Yep. There are shots of Drew that they had to cut frames of in that opening scene.
Too gory.
Of
That's the lore.
when she's being hung from the tree.
But Tom Skerritt's naked butt
I
is
know.
thrusting.
It is.
Thrusting!
Yeah, I would love to see the MPAA notes on that movie. And
Last one.
the last question, what were the MTV Movie Award nominated performances?
Oh. Best kiss for Never Been Kissed.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm so good.
There's one more.
Worst wig for Scream. I don't know.
Is it like best, is there like a best death?
Is there a best cameo? No.
no. Not that she's nominated for.
Were they around when Poison Ivy even came around?
I think that they were. I think
Okay.
it was the early years of the MTV Movie
That
Awards.
might have also. I would have given that a best kiss.
Best kiss with her
nomination,
and
too.
Darlene Connor?
Although
Yeah. I don't know that's in there. Is there some kind of like...
I'll give you a hint.
duo
It is
not
a
duo.
shared nomination.
Yeah, I was
with
gonna
two
say
it's
other
got to be a
Charlie's
Charlie.
Angels.
It's Charlie's Angels.
But what's the award?
I think that it's like best team or
Action
something.
team.
Right.
Yeah.
Action team. Yeah.
So there's
hair
our
flip.
there's our Drew quiz. She's kind of like our big sister of the podcast.
We love you, Drew Barrymore.
We do. I was saying I prefer her in more serious roles than
That's
comedic
interesting. Okay.
almost. Yeah.
I feel like the closest that Drew has ever gotten to Oscar has been Greg Arden's, and she won a Globe for that.
Yeah.
I think she's like a really good little lady in that movie.
She did win the Golden Globe for that, didn't she?
Yep.
Yeah, she didn't get an Emmy, but she got a Golden Globe. She's very
Right.
good in that movie. Love it.
But yeah, I think that's kind of the closest that Drew's going to get to
A
be
major acting award.
a major acting award.
Yeah. Well, she's got that Barrymore name.
Yeah. Do you watch any of her talk show? We watch clips of it
I
on
watch
YouTube.
the YouTube clips.
Yeah.
Did you watch the one of her going around to random places in LA and getting all emotional? Like she was
No.
going in her old laundromat that when she emancipated herself at like 14, she just went to go live with some friends and like, I mean, it kind of looks like West Hollywood.
Kind of looks West Hollywood-ish, but it also kind of looks like, I don't know, like Little Armenia kind of like area.
Like East Hollywood.
But see, to me, when I hear that a minor like actor gets emancipated from their parents, it's mostly just so that they can work longer hours, but they usually still live with like a parent or whatever. When Drew emancipated herself from her mother at 14, she moved out.
she packed her shit
and
and moved out.
lived
Yep.
as a child, a parentless child at 14. What judge
I can't
is like,
believe that.
sure, go for yes, that's the right path for you? Who in LA? What judge did that? That's crazy talk.
So she goes to
And that had to be the early 90s. She was born in 75, so she was 14. You know what I mean? That's crazy.
So she goes to a few of her apartments. She goes to the laundromat that she would go and wash clothes at.
But she couldn't. I mean, she always kind of had money. She didn't have like a washer dryer.
But that's the thing is, I don't know how
I think her mom was a
well
little
off
cuckoo.
her
She
mom
kept
was,
it
though.
all.
yeah, I think the mom was a little cuckoo. At
But
this point.
I think that they were pretty far removed from the Barrymores at that time in the
Yeah.
80s when she was
Right.
acting. So I don't know how well
and
off they were back then. I don't know.
And I think her mother married into it, and there was like
But
divorce.
she
and
was
that's
always
around.
working.
Always working. I mean, until she kind of had, her little
Her like
downward
yeah.
spiral at like 12 or whatever.
Oh no.
That's so crazy. But I mean, this is what's crazy about Drew Barrymore as like an actress, a business person. It's like she's had like that lowest lows, and she crawled out of it. It's like nowadays you see people that like fall like that, and it's rare for somebody to come back and have this
Yeah.
big rebound.
One of the highest
in
paid
their
actors,
career.
like we mentioned in the early 2000s, around the time Donnie Darko came out, and she just had the sway
Yeah.
of on the bonus materials of Donnie Darko, they talk about how this movie got made, and it was Jason Schwartzman had attached his name to it. And when Rushmore came out, Drew and Nancy were just wondering what Jason was up to because they really liked Rushmore, and that's how they found Donnie Darko.
Wow.
And eventually Jason dropped out, but they just kept on with the project.
That is interesting, and it makes you like Drew more in that you're like, wow, she
Yeah.
actually like was genuinely interested in like film and discovering new talent
Yeah.
and like
And this
unique
material,
stories
yeah.
and this material.
Not
whereas,
afraid
yeah.
to make a very ambitious and complicated movie for the time.
Right, and like you mentioned, she's this like child actress who like barely got out alive.
Yeah.
And she had all these insane highs and lows, and there are a few of them like her from the '80s, like a Robert Downey Jr.
Yeah.
Or who else has really like gone up and down that way? Eddie Murphy. But you don't see them making these like cool indies in their spare
Yeah.
time. They're like buying islands and just like. I don't know.
vanity projects, really.
Right. Or, yeah.
When you get to that point where you can do kind of anything in Hollywood, a lot of actors go for the vanity project that, in the case of like maybe Robert Downey Jr., like you said, you get something like
I mean, I guess
Dr.
that.
Dolittle.
I mean, would you even classify something like Charlie's Angels as a vanity project? Because
No, because she
Drew-
collaborated
like,
so
Drew
much.
collaborated
Yeah.
on that movie a lot
Yeah.
with Mick G and Lucy and Cam.
Yeah, agreed. Well, I mean, it's not like her fingerprints are all over this movie either, because it's, I don't know, maybe you would think just offhandedly that Flower Films would just be like lighter romantic comedies kind of a thing.
Or we're going to make Drew the clear lead of this movie.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Her character in this is funny. Okay, so cards on the table. I haven't watched this. Well, when did we go see this?
We
in the theater?
saw a screening of this at the Arrow Theater probably around like 2017, I think.
Oh, was it that long ago?
Wow.
I think that it was a couple years ago.
Okay. And the Arrow Theater featured in Donnie Darko.
Yep.
We saw a
Yes.
screening of it there in Santa Monica. Before that, I hadn't seen this movie in many, many years. I really, really liked it when it first came out. I was all about it. A good friend of mine, Moran, she was on
Earth
our
Girls Are Easy and
Earth Girls
Baby
Are
Boom.
Easy
Yep.
and Baby Boom episodes. She made me a Donnie Darko t-shirt for my birthday that I wore till it fell apart. I was very into it. I thought Jake Gyllenhaal was very dreamy at the time. But in between then and seeing it at the Arrow and then watching it now, I don't know, I kind of had different thoughts, different feelings on the movie, on the tone.
Same.
Drew's character is funny to me. You know, she has this big moment, you know, when she gets fired in the movie and she goes outside and screams, "Fuck!" And I'm just like, did you love your job that much? Like, it's just your job. Yeah, so I definitely my feelings have changed, have aged, you know, with the movie. It's still good, and I still appreciate what's going on there. But I think, you know, when we were young and this movie first came out, I think we were just like assigning so much, I don't know, more to it.
Donnie Darko is an outsider. I'm an outsider.
Yeah.
I even remember it being so popular that there was a backlash where
Yep.
it sort of became a cliche. Like, I like indie films, I like Donnie Darko, and people
Yeah.
would be like, "You're an idiot."
Yeah, totally.
But then it sort of has
Swung back
like
around.
we mentioned earlier, it has kind of gone away where it seems like people actually don't watch it anymore. But I think a lot of people working in the industry now definitely were inspired by it.
Yes.
But it doesn't seem to really be like on a like list of like top 10 movies to watch from the early 2000s. Or
Yeah.
it seems to sort of the legacy isn't quite there.
Like
I would
visually, maybe I feel
Yes.
like Frank the Bunny is kind of
Oh,
an
yeah.
iconic image that people know. But yeah, I think you're right. It's not something that like I don't know that like Gen Z kids are like, oh, you know what movie I just discovered?
say. Right.
I feel like they don't give a shit about
And
this movie at all.
it has to be. It's such a major launching pad for Jake Gyllenhaal in his entire career. I
Yeah.
assume like
Yeah.
Totally.
every casting agent saw it and was like, "Look what he can do. Let's cast him."
Because before that, he
I mean,
had Bubble Boy.
I
And
first
October
remember,
Sky.
I was gonna say, I
October
first
Sky,
remember
yes.
seeing him in October Sky.
Right.
But he's like a frumpy adolescent in that, and like suddenly it was like, "This is young man."
Yeah.
So I guess that we're just getting into the Jake Gyllenhaal of it all.
mean,
So
sure.
this is
Jumping
kind
into
of
the-
why I wanted to do a Jake Gyllenhaal episode, because I feel like us in the gay community, we're sometimes protective over him. Like we tried to claim him for a while.
I was going to say, do you remember that era when everyone was just like, is he,
Toothy
could
tile.
he? I mean, I don't know. Yeah, there was definitely a period where I was very much like, all right.
And he was
this
that
one.
perfect young man when we were teenagers and in our early 20s, of that you saw this cute kid in movies like October Sky and Bubble Boy and Donnie Darko, and you were just like, who is this cute brunette kid?
I remember seeing. I went and saw Moonlight Mile.
Yeah, with
Because he
Dustin
was in
Hoffman
it.
and Susan Sarandon, yep.
Just because Jake was in it.
I'm pretty sure. I mean, well, it's Susan. But
Sure. Well, yeah. I remember specifically, what's the one with Jennifer Aniston?
The good girl. And he plays that
yeah.
character type. He played
lot,
that character type a lot in the early 2000s.
Or in, have you seen Lovely and Amazing?
Lovely and Amazing, yeah.
Is that the one he's into?
Nicole Hoffman, yeah.
Yeah, where he's like underage and she's like having an affair with him.
And that's kind of
That's
another
so
movie
good.
of this like cute, quirky outsider.
Yeah.
Well, what I was going to say about the Jennifer Aniston one was that was when I noticed that like women, like straight women, were like, "Ooh, that Jake Gyllenhaal." And there's specifically a scene. There's like a sex scene with him and Jennifer Aniston, and I remember like coworkers being like, "Oh my god, that was like the hottest scene I've ever seen in my life." And I was like, "Really? It was cool, but like I wasn't whatever. Wasn't that?" And then after that, like all the girls that I knew that would talk about that movie were like, "That sex scene with Jake Gyllenhaal and Jennifer Aniston was just like the hottest thing ever." And I was like, "He's not for you."
Right. And then do you kind of remember when he sort of went to his head and he was aware of it, and they were doing like Anne Hathaway where he's like crazy buff and showing this, and it just, for me, the magic was gone.
Love
Because,
other drugs,
you know you're hot, and you're like, you just did 300 sit-ups before the take, and
Well, and
hadn't drank water in
and
like
of course
4
there
days.
was Brokeback Mountain, and Brokeback Mountain was a huge deal for both him and Heath. Both got Oscar nominations for it, and I feel like they've sort of tried to replicate that in the 15 years since Brokeback Mountain, and they've never quite nailed it.
No, and I feel like Jake got the short end of the stick with Brokeback. It was kind of all about Heath, and Jake was sort of like, even though he was arguably, was he the bigger star at that time?
I mean,
than Heath? I feel
American
like that
audiences,
made Heath bigger.
I would say so.
And it didn't do a ton.
Although
for Jake.
Heath Ledger's kind of his
It's-
movies like A Knight's Tale and 10 Things I Hate About You were huge.
Yeah, but I feel like Jake was seen as the more like legitimate
Actor-y,
actor at that time.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that.
Yeah. And then suddenly it was all about Heath after Brokeback. It's bottom discrimination. 'Cause Jake
Again,
was the
another
bottom.
instance.
And it was like, and he also sort of stepped out where they're like, he actually like a healthier approach. He like had another boyfriend, right? Or a side piece in the time
did,
between,
yes.
whereas that was kind of vilified. And it was like, well,
Right.
Heath's the one real true love.
He hits on the sheriff from Stranger Things. You remember that?
Yes, David
What's-
Harbour.
David Harbour,
which
yep.
is another like such a gay. Now in Stranger Things, he's again like part of that deeply erotic gay male.
Kind of has
fandom.
just become this bear icon.
Yes, and he's in and again like Brokeback. Like what a career.
Yeah. Brokeback Mountain, though, I feel like was kind of a breakthrough, not just for Jake and Heath, but kind of like for, like, I don't know, like my parents and like my aunt went to go see it. And they were like having discussions with me about
it. Was mainstream queer cinema.
Yeah.
And being from Montana, it was a fairly hotly debated thing, especially with like family members who were like cowboys and just like, I'm not seeing that queer movie about gay cowboys.
Yeah.
So people from Montana definitely had an opinion about that movie when it came out.
Right.
Yeah, and did Jake already had like gay rumors at that time?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So it's sort of interesting. I always kind of knew he was straight, only because I was like, I'm too attracted to you, so you're not gay. But
totally.
I thought at the time I was like, that's kind of cool. Like he didn't care. He leaned into it. Yeah, and we talked about this earlier when we did Talented Mr. Ripley, Jude Law playing gay. It was sort of almost in vogue to be like, maybe I am. So what?
He likes to be
Ewan McGregor.
He likes
did
to
the
be.
same thing, yeah.
He likes to be desired by both.
But it wasn't quite the gay baiting we see now, where like a Jonas brother is like,
not to this level.
Like you know, nasty pig jockstrap, like asking you to like give him money or
Jeez
something.
Louise. So, all right. So we spent a good portion of our going out days here in LA, right? Mm-hmm. And I think that, Mike, you and I have had our own particular run-ins.
I've never had a Jake
with
LA
Jake
run-in.
Gyllenhaal.
We've had
sightings.
several. I've had several. He might be the most celebrity I've seen in the wild in LA.
Yeah.
He must have like lived in on the east side.
I
at
think
some
He
point.
strikes me as someone that would be out of Los Feliz or Silver
think he
Lake.
did.
Yeah, I guess so. Although I saw him at the Burbank IKEA once with Kirsten Dunst buying
Amazing.
Like, 1,000,001 towels. I mean, this was so long ago. It was probably like 05, 06. Like maybe he was still like he owned like like a rental unit that he was stocking up on or something. I don't know. But they were together. I was shook. I was like floored. I mean,
That's a good one.
It was, and they both looked like magical, like, flawless skin, no pores, just beautiful, Jake and Kirsten. And then the second time, and then I'll let you go, was at the Alcove. I know that was another one, which is like outdoor restaurant in Silver Lake. And he was buff. Ooh. And I remember thinking, what are you about to be in? Because
Like
you look
Prince
like
of
an
Persia?
action figure.
Yeah.
I want to say it might have been like
Prince of Persia.
the problematic Prince of Persia.
Never could get made today.
No. And, he just eaten a ton of food. And then I feel like there was another one, but it escapes me. But it became a point where it's like, oh, it's just Jake Gyllenhaal.
Right,
It's not a big deal anymore.
I saw him out. I would see him at shows a lot. So once I just kind of saw him in passing, probably, I want to say, was like at the Troubadour, probably, right? The first time.
Mm-hmm.
And that, I was just like, there he is over there. And then later that evening, we ended up at Fred 62 in Silver Lake. And Fred 62 is open all night? Very late into the night? 4 a.m.?
I feel like
that.
Jake loves to eat. I think we're always going to have restaurants.
Yes. So we saw, and this was like right before Donnie Darko came out, because we were like, Bubble Boy following us all over LA. There he is. And at the end of the night, and it's very late, it's probably like 2:30, almost 3 o'clock in the morning. Him and his pals go out of Fred 62, get in a town car with a driver sitting in front. Yeah,
wow.
Drive off. So that driver was sitting outside on like one of those side streets just waiting for him. Second time I see him, it is at a Rilo Kiley show.
Oh my God.
With his then girlfriend, Jenny Lewis.
Jenny Lewis.
East Side royalty.
Yep.
I'm telling you.
Jenny Lewis is also someone that, like, okay, we have to know someone that knows her.
Oh, we
like,
do.
How far?
No,
like,
we are one.
I'm like
we're
one or
like
two degrees
we're
from
one or
her,
2
yeah.
degrees from Jenny Lewis.
Yeah.
Jose could text her right now. Mm-hmm. I could text Jose and be like, say hi to Jenny Lewis, and you'll send me a screenshot. So I'm at, and this is at the Troubadour for sure. I remember this one specifically. I'm at the Troubadour, standing with my friends, and I am not a very tall person. And we're standing in the back. And it's not very crowded. Rilo Kiley has kind of a crowd, but it's not super crowded yet. And 2 taller gentlemen walk in and park themselves right in front of me. And they're at least 6 foot, probably maybe 5'11", 6 foot, maybe 6'1", but they're definitely taller than me. And they're standing in front of me. So I'm like, all right, bozos, right in my way. So they kind of start like swaying with the music and step a little bit back towards me. So I put my foot out. So I'm standing with my hands on my hips, and I just kind of put one foot out. So I'm just kind of leaning forward a little bit. I'm like, you're not going to get in my personal space. It's not that crowded. Stay away. So one of the 2 steps back, steps right on my foot, and kind of like tippy tumbles, falls back into me, and I like catch him like his back with my 2 hands and kind of stand him up. And he turns around. He's like, "Oh man, I'm so sorry. Like I didn't see you there." Jake Gyllenhaal.
You've had physical
contact. Yes.
You almost did like a trust fall.
Oh yeah, very
with
close.
Jake Gyllenhaal.
Yes. And this is, mind you, Troubadour, same space, not the same night, but the same space where I had also a very close, near physical contact with one Mr. Jared Leto. But I digress. Jake Gyllenhaal turns around, apologizes. His friend kind of looks at him, looks at me, kind of laughs. The friend, Alex Greenwald. From Donnie Darko.
One of the bullies.
Yep. Is that the fashion mullet one?
That's the fashion mullet.
Oh, he's kind of cute.
Lead singer of Fashion Planet.
A Phantom Planet.
Definitely the type of bully that's going to like push you into the locker and then you're going to jerk off thinking about him later.
Yeah.
So, but we were kind of in that crowd where we would go to Phantom Planet shows. So I was like more familiar almost with Alex Greenwald. And, I was like, okay, that was crazy. So then later on that night, we're outside on the sidewalk just kind of smoking whatever. And Jake and Alex go to leave towards, not Ed DeBevick's, but what is the Italian restaurant next door to the Troubadour? Oh. And Jake kind of like, he kind of like looks around or whatever. And like, I was like looking, saw him, caught my eye, and he gave me a little nod like, hey. Because he was like, I stepped on your foot and smashed your toe earlier. So that was
so hot.
Yeah, so that was number 2. Exciting. That was the best one.
That is a story.
And I feel like you would have had to have seen Jason Schwartzman just sort of in the mix of all of this then.
We would go to Karis Flower shows all the time. So I would see Jason play.
How pissed do you think that Jason Schwartzman is now that he declined this movie? I bet that if you get him like drunk, I bet that he's pretty bitter about it.
You think he wanted it? Yeah?
I think he wanted it, and probably just circumstances he didn't take it.
It seemed like he had it, and he walked away. Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
I'm sure like Francis was doing, so there was like a, a wedding or something.
So, I mean, yeah, Jake was man about town, and he's younger than you, right?
I want to say yes, because
Yeah.
again, when I was in college, again, this take with a grain of salt. I was a film major. I had to take acting classes as part of my requirement. I secretly loved it because I'm like a ham. I mean, give me a microphone and I won't shut up. But one of the girls claimed to have like gone to like high school with them and that she carpooled with them. There's always, again, even if you didn't spot him, you could talk to someone who also had a Jake Gyllenhaal.
And he's
story.
a child of the industry. I believe that his mother works in casting, I think.
Yeah.
And isn't his father like a
I
DP?
think they're both in it.
Well, are you thinking about Zooey Deschanel?
I'm thinking yeah.
One of my close
Caleb? Yeah.
friends also went to college with Maggie and has stories
Ooh,
at Columbia.
all right.
I feel like Maggie Gyllenhaal at this time, I was so invested in her climb to the A-list. That
Yeah.
Maggie Gyllenhaal was that type of actress for closeted gay boys that you just sort of latch onto and you're just like, this is the cool girl. She was in Donnie Darko. She was in Secretary. She was in Mona Lisa Smiles with all of them.
Oh yeah, I forgot she
That
was
you
in
just
that.
sort of...
Isn't she the hoe in that too?
She is.
She is.
Yep, she's the promiscuous
Like the
one.
butterface hoe. I mean, forgive my.
Well, here's the thing. Like, I remember at this time, like, super hipstery guys would be like, oh, yeah, like, the two hottest girls in Hollywood right now are Chloe Sevigny and Maggie Gyllenhaal.
Wow.
Yeah. Like, so the both grandma faces? All right.
Right.
Yeah, take them.
Which is popular right now again. It's all
It's
about
back.
the like who's that like what's her name? The niece of Joe Biden, that like
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Like
she-
Olivia Rodrigo?
no, the actual niece of Joe Biden.
No, the yeah.
I know who you're
I forgot that story.
I know that Olivia Rodrigo did go to the White House.
There's like some other yeah.
Oh, no. Am I thinking of Kamala Harris's stepdaughter?
I'm thinking of Kamala Harris. That's who.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so that's sort of in that vein of the Maggie Gyllenhaal, Chloe
Yeah.
Sevigny.
Well, I feel like Kamala Harris's stepdaughter is also that very, like, androgynous,
Right.
like, super...
Androgyne.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't say Maggie's androgynous,
No.
but she is not a typical pinup.
Correct.
And I kind of like, we talked a little bit about this when our friend Brad was on in our Clueless episode, and we got on a weird Maggie Gyllenhaal tangent. And he mentioned that he likes that she hasn't sort of taken the route of a leading lady. Like, I think that she's okay with just sort of having this fringe success in Hollywood. That she's
maybe.
famous and she gets notable supporting roles, but I mean, she kind of knows her lane, too.
Yes, I am a fan of hers, but she's divisive. I feel like you'll meet a lot of people who can't stand her as well on the camera, on the screen. I do wonder about that too. Because I think she's won Tony. I think at this point she's fairly decorated. I think she's won Tonys
an
or
honorable
awards
woman was kind of a big deal for her. I think that she got a Globe or something for it.
Yeah, she strikes me as someone who just won't do a project unless the role really fits or she's really interested.
And
in
she's
it.
directing a movie this fall with Olivia Colman.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Well, I think my favorite Maggie Gyllenhaal role is when she took over for Katie Holmes in the Batman.
Oh
That's
man,
right,
that's
yeah.
a moment when she gets blowed up.
That was a moment. I mean, first of all,
Also, Sherry Baby. We could talk for an hour and a half.
I love
about
Sherry Baby.
or-
I'm sure that she was
movie.
sixth in line for Best Actress that year.
sixth in line.
Yeah,
Well, I think
she
that she-
did have.
I think
like,
she just
buzz.
narrowly
She
missed
did. She did. I recall.
So for those of you at home keeping track, Kamala Harris's stepdaughter, her name is Ella Emhoff.
Yes,
She's a model.
Thank you.
She's actually quite stunning. And I remember at the inauguration, I was like, who is that? But she does have a little bit of a Doug Henning kind of like 70s magician kind of look to
Right.
her. But you can look her up.
Which Maggie looks a little 70s.
Oh, yes.
magician-y.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Wasn't her first role?
No. She was in Cecil B. Demented in
That's
2000.
right.
Okay.
Yes. John Waters, Cecil B. Demented. And she's
Who's
quite
her-
funny in Cecil
Who's her
B. Demented.
filmmaker that she has tattooed on her? in
I want to
Cecil B.
say
Demented?
Kenneth Anger.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
I know that the first her introduction in this film is amazing. It's
Yeah.
the dad with the leaf blower and
Yes.
he like blows it in her face.
And
It's
I
really
always
a
thought
good
it was
moment.
very interesting because that scene is shot in slow motion, and the actor who plays the dad he's not like laughing or smiling.
right.
He's like stone face, leaf blower to the face, Maggie Gyllenhaal. And then finally, as she like runs off and he kind of turns, then he kind of starts laughing and gets more playful. But I remember initially seeing that going like, whoa, the dad's weird.
Yeah.
What's going on? I definitely get from her character in this movie, the older sister in Poltergeist vibes.
Oh, yeah.
Just like kind of comes and goes, just kind of like what's going on, and then like the big crazy shit hits the fan, and she's like just coming home from like a date or something.
That's so true.
Yeah.
So Pete didn't catch on until this viewing. I think that I had to tell him that her boyfriend is Frank the Rabbit, James Duvall.
I forgot.
And he drops her off in the Trans Am car, and he's honking at her when she closes the door.
Yeah, totally.
Yes.
So technically, he's in one of the early scenes of the
Who
movie.
is that actor?
It's
too?
James Duvall.
James Duvall
Yeah.
from nowhere.
Okay. When I
Doom
was
Generation?
Yes, I was like,
Yeah.
I knew it was a Gregor Rocky-ish. I was
Yes.
like, I know who this is.
More importantly, Independence Day.
Yes.
So we were just watching some special features, and James Duvall, we love.
Me too.
He's commented on one of our Instagrams.
He has. I first saw James Duvall in the Doom Generation and was just like, oh my god, this kid is great. I love this.
He has that like surfer Keanu Reeves voice too.
Yes.
He is in the special features of this movie, and he's talking about this movie like a fucking super fan. It's kind of amazing. He is like giving you like a forensic, like college level, like breakdown of this movie, and you're just like, all right, James Duvall,
That's
like he's
sweet.
loving it. Yeah,
I feel like this was, for a lot of straight men too
Yeah.
of that era, this
Yeah.
film kind of really speaks to them.
yes,
In a way that is hardcore and intense, but it does have like for something for the gays. We've got Drew and we've got Beth,
Beth Grant, all the
and
great
we
actresses.
get like child pageant dance numbers and Patrick Swayze. I mean, there's a lot.
I have some questions about Sparkle Motion and the sister Sam. This actress looks 7.
Oh, oh my god, yeah.
like
What's
it's
going
probably written for a younger age, and they landed on her, but they didn't really adjust any of the dialogue.
Or I don't know if I feel like the role was for an older actress.
Older, actually, because
Yeah.
the other
sure.
two kids are like.
The girls come
Maggie
in-
looks like she's got a 401k already.
Yes,
Like,
but
she's
also
sorta
like Sam's friends come in and they look older than her. The other girls in Sparkle
Yeah.
Motion look older than her, and like they come in and are like hot goss, like all this stuff, and you're like, she looks like a first grader,
right.
and they're out there like talking like all this like ish, and I'm like, oh, okay. She seems like a little small, like size wise, so maybe that's why she just seems younger. I don't know. But
Maybe they answer all these questions in S. Darko.
the straight to video sequel.
Is there a sequel?
A straight to
Did you not know about the
Darko.
sequel? S. Darko?
We should have watched that
With,
and talked about it.
Oh man,
With that Ed Westwick from Gossip Girl and Elizabeth Berkley.
No, who directed it? Alan
not,
Smithy.
yeah, exactly. But it's the sister Samantha, and it's the actress Davy Chase, who was she Lilo and Stitch?
Lilo and Stitch and Samara from The Ring.
There you go.
And it's called S. Darko.
yes,
Shouldn't it be?
yeah.
I'm not even gonna. I don't. We have a. Let's move on and talk about the
Yeah.
actual movie.
Do I have problems with the name Darko? I don't know.
Well, I mean, it's like Jenna Malone says. What kind of a name is Donnie Darko? That sounds like a superhero.
Superhero.
Yeah, so I'm just saying, like, it just sounds made up.
Yeah. It's like a Marvel name.
Yeah, totally. The alliteration, and that's on purpose. Mm-hmm. But Jenna Malone, we haven't even talked about.
I've seen her in the wild
See?
too.
I have seen Jenna
We love
Malone
Jenna
on
Malone.
Broadway. I saw her in
Ooh.
Doubt. She was
Ooh.
the
She was
she
the
was,
Meryl Streep
she
character?
was the B cast, or like
I don't think she was
there was
Meryl. That's so
there was the main cast
cruel.
of Doubt, and then they changed out the actors
Right.
later
Uh-huh.
on, and she was the second nun. She was
The
the
Amy
second
Adams.
the Amy Adams
Oh.
nun. Jenna
She's not
Malone
Viola Davis.
probably would have been more suited to the movie than Amy Adams would have been.
Oh, to Doubt, you think?
Yeah.
Interesting.
But yeah, she was in Doubt. She was really good.
I saw her on Vashon Island in Seattle because that's where she lives now, and she was just living her life. Because I have a high school friend that lives out there, and they're like, yeah, she's like, Jenna Malone lives on the island. And she's like cool. She had like tattoos and like, you know, she just looked like a regular person going about her life.
I thought you meant Fashion Island in Newport Beach.
No, we call that Fascist Island.
Oh, hey.
Back in the OC days.
Right. So Jenna Malone always struck me as this kind of girl that, like, she has like a sweet kind of like kid actor face. And like, you know, she was in Stepmom and that kind of thing. And I kind of just expected her to be in more of these roles as like the daughter, maybe a little bit more precocious, but she always chose things that were a little bit more edgy than her looks kind of
it was, I think that she did this and Dangerous Life of Altar Boys back to back. So she definitely had a type.
And when was Saved?
Saved was 04.
There you go. So right after.
I get strong Kristen Stewart-y vibes.
Oh, sure.
Like, she
Definitely,
stole my career. That's like if I were doing
I feel like if you
Yeah.
were like in the casting office, it would be Kristen Stewart, Jenna Malone, and Evan Rachel Wood. That you'd be looking at their headshots in a row.
And, you know, clearly one's a little more glamorous than the other. But in general, like even their acting style, Jenna, she has like a similar, like kind of moody, twitchy, in her head, troubled teen.
Yeah.
They're probably about 5 years removed from each other.
Yeah,
so.
they're definitely Jenna's a little older.
A little older. Yeah.
A little bit, baby bit.
Yeah. But she's really good in this.
Yeah, I think that she's doing a really good job in this movie. I love her opening scene where she walks into the classroom.
May we help you?
Yeah, I just registered and they put me in the wrong English class.
You look like you belong here.
Where do I sit?
Sit next to the boy you think is the cutest.
Quiet!
Better choose. Joni, get up.
Could you imagine?
Inappropriate.
Could you imagine if that would have happened in your high school?
Inappropriate.
I mean, it didn't, but I do remember having occasionally like shockingly inappropriate relationships with teachers, and I feel like the film sort of being like, this is that one teacher that you remember that was like actually still in her 30s and still had a libido and was kind of cool and not like incredibly like ground down and jaded and like
She wears some nice earth tones in this movie.
Yeah, I remember in high school.
Flat.
My science teacher, her name changed halfway through the year because she got a divorce. Was very public about it. Like, I am no longer Mrs. Johnson. I am now Mrs. Lutkins. And people would just go in on it. You know, they're like, "What happened? Well, why'd you get divorced?" You know, like
God.
people, the boundaries between, and also when substitute teachers would come in, they were also like such fair game. People would just go in on them and ask them like the rudest, most inappropriate personal questions.
Teenagers, man.
But I like that Drew's teacher, like, she doesn't put up with any shit with all of these students.
Yeah.
Like, calls them out to their face. I love that.
And she cares. She's like, read Graham Greene.
Yeah, I feel like the role is kind of a little bit of a departure from Drew because she's trying to be a little bit more hard-edged maybe than Drew Barrymore, like the woman. So you can kind of feel it when she like tells the one girl who's kind of, I don't know if she's supposed to be kind of like a know-it-all in the class or whatever, that she's kind of like, get out. Like, move.
Right.
Move. Go find another seat.
And she is, she's Noah Wiley's wife? Because they're a couple.
I think they're just
a couple.
boning.
Yeah.
I think they're just boning. Noah Wiley also, I did like in the classroom scene when Seth Rogen...
Oh, yeah, that was such a real naturalistic good. It was like, get out.
Yeah, he's just like, get out.
That's how it happened.
Because a lot of times in movies, kids say stuff to the teacher's face and the teacher just doesn't acknowledge it. And you're just like, I would have been expelled from school for saying that to a teacher to their face if they could hear it. And they never gets acknowledged. And in this one, they said it. He heard it and was like, get out. Go to the dean, whatever, wherever they have to go.
Principal.
Yeah. So, love that. And Noah Wiley was another one in like the early days of ER when I was like, ooh, he's cute. But I was also like, 15 or whatever, so I don't know if I really had my my type down yet, but I always kind of thought that he was really good looking as like a younger man. So I appreciated that he was in this. I was like, oh, there's just so many cute people to look at in this movie.
When you first watched this movie in your initial viewing, did you wonder, what did you walk away understanding? I remember when I first rented this movie, because I had read about Donnie Darko in Teen Movie Line magazine. I think that they had a write-up of Sundance movies, or like they had like a fall preview. And there's like, well, this is what Drew Barrymore's up to. She's producing a movie with October Sky's Jake Gyllenhaal. And I'll always remember how they described the movie. And they said Jake Gyllenhaal is this loner outsider that makes a deal with the Grim Reaper.
Well, that is
and
not
you're
what
like,
happened.
And
no.
I remember that's sort of the movie that I thought I was going into because I rented this movie very quick when it came out on DVD because I was looking forward to this movie and I would sort of track how it was doing on Yahoo Movies, which wasn't that good. And I remember initially watching it and just being like, I don't understand any of this movie. Was that sort of your initial reaction to it?
I want to say I was still at that age too, though, where I was a little pretentious and like, I understand it.
Yes, yeah.
I understand it because it's clever enough to sort of still string you along. Like you're not completely lost or confused, but you're right. Like things keep happening that are intriguing, which again, it kind of anticipated that era of Lost and puzzle box narratives and like what's behind it, and the truth is that the answer is always a little unsatisfying, and when it finally loops back at the end and you realize, oh, it's like this time portal loop and this airplane crashed, but it like fell, and you're like, okay,
all right, that's it. And it's like, I get like the linear part of it, not the linear part, but I mean, I get what they're showing us, but I think maybe we don't get like why did it miss Donnie the first time? Why is he trapped in this loop? Why is he seeing Frank? Why is blah 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 blah? But that part of it, it's like, okay, we don't understand. But it's like the mechanics of it. It's like it missed him the first time because he was sleepwalking.
Yes,
but then the second time he decided to stay home.
Right, but he was sleepwalking because it was like communicating and interacting with them. And
so where does it begin and all that stuff?
Well, and it's kind of a fate that he's going to save Jenna Malone's character.
Well, not the world, too,
In the world,
I will never forget being in the Aero Theater watching the screening, and Richard Kelly is there.
Oh my God.
There's a Q&A afterwards. And he's like, in the many years since this movie's come out, people ask me all the time, what does it mean? What does it mean? What's behind it? Why, what's going on? And he's like, I was a very young man when I wrote this. It doesn't really have this greater existential meaning. It's just kind of, like you said, this puzzle box of a thing they were meant to put together. But at the end of the day, it's not, like, there's not this big, great mystery behind it that I can unravel for you. So just kind of like understand that that's kind of where I was when I made it and blah, blah, blah. First question in the Q&A. He's like, all right, who's got a question? First question. So what's it all about?
Oh my God.
Yeah, and I think that's
everybody in the audience was like, are you fucking
everybody
serious
groans, and
right
I think
now?
that we got up and left.
Yeah, we did. We were like, we didn't need to see the rest of this Q&A.
I wish I would have stayed and I would have raised my hand to ask him about the box.
I kind of like the box.
I do too.
I think the box is kind of dope.
It feels like
it's
Donnie
underrated.
Darko. It's like a more intense version of Donnie Darko.
Okay.
With its F cinema score.
I even kind of like Southland Tales, which is...
we got to talk about Southland
At
Tales.
some point, but like, I digress. We're already jumping ahead. But to your point, it does, and it sort of feels like a first-time filmmaker, their first film, and you're sort of like, this is a little shallow, like it's not that deep.
Yeah.
But kudos to you for like nailing this cool tone. It does have a unique feel and look. And like we said, when it's like, what's this about? It's playing like a horror film. And then you're like, it's gonna get scarier.
But then at times it's sort of playing out like a dark comedy or a drama.
Yeah, because like if the whole idea was like, okay, he's sacrificing himself to save all these people and to save Jenna Malone and to save the Earth and all that, but then in this new timeline where he does die and none of that other stuff happened, then Patrick Swayze's character is never exposed. And so he gets
interesting.
He gets to go on continuing to be like a secret
child.
pedophile.
Well, hopefully he gets.
God, yeah.
Hopefully that ring gets busted.
Yeah, so it's like
Soon
that.
after
That
the
was
events
kind
of
of a
the movie.
loose end that doesn't get tied up
Yeah.
in the new. You know,
But I guess you could say that life isn't always
well,
neatly tied up.
there's got to be some parts that
That
Donnie
felt
didn't fix.
very 80s. Remember, like Satanic Panic and the like preschools and the like it was
Cults
an
and-
interesting
yeah.
little touch. But I noticed, I was like, what is this theme? Did anyone else like the name of the town is Middlesex?
Yeah.
And there are these weird allusions to gender and sexuality where like, remember the Smurfs where they're like, what would life be without a dick? There's a lot of like this weird dialogue around like gender that I was like, is this going somewhere? Like, was this saying something?
Right. Yeah. And
But no.
Yeah, but no. Ultimately, not really.
And then
how old was
also-
Richard Kelly when he made this?
Well, I was going to say when I kind of nitpick at certain problems of this movie or stuff that doesn't quite like come all the way together, tie together. I do think Richard Kelly was 24 years old when he directed this movie.
Yeah.
What was I doing when I was 24 years old? Not making a movie like Donnie Darko. So you kind of have to like.
Yeah.
Tip your hat to
Yeah.
him of that. This is an insanely ambitious movie made by someone in their mid-20s.
Yeah. And a lot of the characters feel like like Grandma Death and these other figures. It just feels like the kind of stuff you come up with in your early 20s. And it's kind of nice. It's like, oh yeah, I kind of remember that kind of a humor that I also had.
Grandma Death. I
loved her.
I always forget though. This like Welcome to the Jungle wig. I don't know what's going on with
her
this,
mullet
with this hair.
We stand Grandma Death.
Yeah, and then the whole idea of her like writing this book and
What's her name? Roberta.
forget. Yeah.
Oh yeah, because it's all like oddly connected. This is why it has a cult following, because he does still manage to sort of like stitch together all these like odds and ends and loose characters and
Yeah, it's a rich tapestry.
a carnival of souls.
Painting with light. No, that's Thomas Kincaid. So we should talk about. We mentioned it briefly. We should talk about Richard Kelly's follow-ups.
So
Donnie Darko.
that's what's kind of interesting about Richard Kelly's career
Kelly.
is that after the kind of when the cult following of this movie started to catch on,
they're going to give him his blank check movie.
they're going to give him his blank check.
This
movie.
is the ultimate calling card. And there have been so many other terrible indies that have come out that tried to do this.
Oh, yeah.
Even where you're watching, you're like, you are just trying to like direct a Marvel film like Safety Not Guaranteed and all these other like films where you're like, what is the point of this?
Yeah. But this is but this is at a time when an indie director can make this movie, have it be a huge hit, and not handed as his second feature a Marvel movie.
Exactly.
That wasn't the landscape of Hollywood at the time. So it was a period when they were like, okay, your movie was great, we love it, we love what you do. And then you get your quote-unquote blank check movie next.
And I don't even think Southland Tales was even financed by a major studio. I think it was all private investors.
Was it the next film or no?
It was the next film. Because that went to Cannes in 2000. I think it went to Cannes in 2006. I think that it was the year Marie Antoinette was there.
Okay.
Because it was just everywhere that this movie was not well received at all. And when you look at the cast of Southland Tales, it's
He got names.
Sarah Michelle
Yeah.
Gellar, The Rock, early in his acting career, Sean William Scott,
Justin Timberlake.
I think narrates the movie. Amy Poehler, Miranda fucking Richardson.
Everyone
He got
wanted
her.
to be in it.
Everybody wanted a piece of Richard Kelly
Based on Donnie Darko.
based on
Yeah.
Donnie
The success
Darko.
of that.
So, and
What I remember Southland Tales kind of being this like unfinished masterpiece storyline.
It had a working print shown at Cannes that I think was shown in competition. Like I think that they took it there for the Palme d'Or.
Wow.
And it did not like. Of course, like booze at the screening, walkouts.
Love it.
And then it just was shelved until like 2007. And I
Right.
think that it was released fall, like November of 2007.
I saw it in the theater.
Wow.
I did.
I watched it and I thought it was pretty awful.
I mean, I don't remember loving it. I remember it's really long.
Yeah. It's like 2.5 hours.
Oh,
And
man.
that's why I assume no studio. He probably like insisted on like Final Cut, and like I'm sure studios were like, sorry, but you've made one film, and we're not gonna do that. That's my assumption.
And I know that sort of people have come back around to Southland Tales, especially the state of America now with the reality show President, that it's kind of oddly topical of a movie like Southland Tales. So it might be an interesting revisit. We stumbled onto it on Pluto TV. And
I was going to say, when
I remember
we recently watched it.
We recently watched a couple scenes of it, and it was pretty unwatchable.
I was lost. I was like, what the hell is going on?
The Box, on the other hand,
that was after.
I saw The Box opening day.
Wow.
And refresh my memory, The Box is Cameron Diaz.
Cameron Diaz and James Marsden.
And they push the button.
And it's this couple in the 1970s that they're going through some financial troubles. I think that he's a high school teacher. And I think that doesn't Cam have like a peg leg or something?
She's missing toes.
Missing toes or something, yeah. And they get Frank Langella comes over to their house with a box.
And he's got like
says,
half a face.
Yeah, that if you press this button... you're going to be getting $1 million, but somebody dies.
It's very Twilight Zone-y,
right.
but 90 minutes, and like it's also then goes into weird sci-fi metaphysics.
Sure.
It felt very like Southland Tales. He was like, I'm sorry, I'll make something like Donnie Darko again if you give me money. And they did, but then he made it way too weird. It's even more incoherent and strange than
because
Donnie
what
Darko.
I do remember was it being kind of polarizing. That people just
it's another flaw.
It got an F cinema score, which is almost like a badge of honor. If you get like an F cinema score from like a mainstream audience, like you must be doing something right.
Yeah. And again, he never was able to replicate, I guess.
And it's kind of a shame with long-form storytelling that the industry is going on now with stuff like miniseries, Netflix, like 6 to 10 episode seasons that you can just do a standalone project. You would think that Richard Kelly would be really good at something like that.
It could be his reputation, how easy or difficult he is to work with. But yeah, like the OA is a very like... Richard Kelly style production. I wonder too, when I think of Donnie Darko, again, it was that indie, but indies sort of had that slow creep of commercialization, and this was sort of that midpoint one where they were like, this could cross over, this could be a hit. It's enough is going on here that mainstream audiences, and they kept hunting, and then like Juno was sort of the like
Juno and Little Miss Sunshine were just sort of like the peak of that they get Best Picture nominations. But Juno and Little Miss Sunshine, those are movies made for sort of a populist audience too, which there's nothing wrong with that. But Donnie Darko isn't trying to do that.
No, there was like, they also had like secret studio backing where it was like, you had a budget. Yeah. And Donnie Darko kind of, it's like halfway. It had enough of a budget, but.
Yeah.
I think they shot this movie at about $4 million.
Okay.
And that was just based on the star power of Drew.
Yeah, they were like,
people invested in it.
Yeah. I feel like if this movie didn't have CG in it, it would feel a little bit more like indie, quote unquote, or like low budget or whatever. But I think the minute you see these like visual effects, you're like, oh, this is like a real production.
Yeah.
But really, I think they got away with them on like extremely cheap.
And I think
very rudimentary.
And I
CGI
think that was
effects.
part of the reason why a lot of people hated it at Sundance. Of that, you're an independent movie. What are you doing with visual effects?
CGI.
Yeah.
And all of these do-it-yourself CGI. Like, this movie has, like, no place to be at the festival.
Right.
But that's crazy because like
but that was the attitude towards it.
Yeah. Because the effects that are in it again are very minimal. They're I think what people think are more CGI. It's like that jet engine thing is practical.
Yeah, I agree. I think they're really clever and sparing in how they use special effects. But there is that sentiment of like, oh, someone gave you a ton of money and you're pretending it's an indie. But it's like, well, it was an indie. It's that like Lana Del Rey syndrome where it was like, she's backed by remember when she came out and it was like, they're not real. It's not a real musician.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, they are, but they just had a little money.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. That's interesting. I do feel like, though, especially with the, I don't know, what do you even call the like appendages coming out of coming out of the people's bodies and all that. I feel like this time when we rewatched it last night for our refresher, I was just like, what is happening? What are these things? Maybe I wasn't paying close enough attention.
I like that the portal opens on into the Evil Dead film. That was kind of fun.
So,
That's
did you
cool.
hear what Richard Kelly wanted them to
No.
go to? So, originally, it was a double feature of The Last Temptation of Christ
Yes.
and Chud.
That would have been
And
amazing.
I guess that the people that own the Masters of Chud were just having them jump through too many hoops. And
Damn.
Flower
Too much red
Films
tape.
had a hookup with Sam Raimi.
Chud
And he
would
pretty
have,
much,
like-
and he pretty much just gave production that print.
That's so sweet of him. What is Linnea Quigley in Chud? I want to IMDb
Is
it right
she?
now. Is it like Ghoul? Isn't Chud just like Ghoulies knockoff? Or
It's
like
Ghoulies was kind of going off of Gremlins. Chud is
Okay.
What does Chud stand for?
Carnivorous humanoid underground dwellers.
Yeah.
okay.
John Goodman's
I'm
in
glad
it.
you had that like right off the top of your head. You're just like carnivorous.
Yeah, you know,
I want to know
cannibalistic.
Sure.
Oh, okay.
Humanoid underground
But
dwellers.
who is sitting through a double feature of
Chud
and
and Last
of
Temptation.
The Evil Dead and The Last Temptation of Christ?
I kind of took it as The Last Temptation of Christ is the new movie that you can see during the day, and then on Friday night
you can
at
see.
10 you can come
Sure.
and see.
Oh, I guess that's right. I mean, I was
Yeah.
thinking
It
this
was
is a revival,
1988,
but this
yeah.
was 88 when The
Yeah.
Last Temptation of Christ
No,
was
yeah.
released.
So I think
Okay.
they were just like, that's
Sure.
the topical current movie.
And it's obviously thematically plays into like
Yes.
he has to self-sacrifice to save humanity.
And also, just The Last Temptation of Christ was so controversial at the time that it
Oh,
got
yeah.
it pretty much got like Martin Scorsese like excommunicated from the Catholic
Yeah.
Church because of it.
or
Or at least started the rumor that he was excommunicated. But yeah. And The Last Temptation of Christ is Willem Dafoe?
Yes.
As
Yeah.
Jeebus?
and David Bowie as Pontius Pilate.
What?
I always loved whoever's playing Pontius Pilate.
Right?
Yeah, Seal played him in the Tyler Perry one.
What?
Remember when Tyler Perry? I'm sorry. I know.
Oh,
Remember
man.
when Tyler Perry did that like live musical?
But wasn't that... No, what was
It was
that?
not. It was probably like 5 or 6 years ago. It was
Sure.
like on Fox. It was on broadcast TV. It was like we'll do anything to stop like streamers.
Yeah.
and it was a Tyler Perry live musical production of like his own one.
Jesus Christ Superstar?
Because
That's wild.
it was like jukebox musical where they
Yeah.
were singing contemporary songs, but it was told through the
okay.
story of the last days of Christ. So like,
So what's the other... There's Jesus Christ Superstar, but there's also Godspell.
yes.
Yeah.
It wasn't either one of those.
No, like
Okay.
when Mary Magdalene sings Whitney Houston's "My Love Is Your Love," like it's that kind of a like thing.
Wow.
You guys don't. I mean,
I remember
look it
it.
up.
I
You
remember it,
Yeah,
yeah.
I have
so
zero memory
Seal
of
is
this.
playing Pontius
Pontius
Pilate
Love it. As made famous by David Bowie in The Last
in
Temptation
the
of
last.
Christ.
Sorry, yeah,
Awesome. Okay. All right.
it's so good.
I mean, it sounds better
Look it up,
than
listeners.
Chris Daughtry's in it.
it sounds better than The Passion of the Christ.
Yeah, it is. It's much more entertaining and rewatchable. They sing what's the Celine Love Can Move Mountains? Was that her?
Yeah.
Yeah, they do that number and that's in it. At the end, he's like Jesus was resurrected on like the top of a Ramada Inn because like they were shooting on location and like they
it's
were
live.
using it's live.
Yeah.
It's like Jesus was like at a Ramada Inn.
Because they would do that with like Grease too. They're
Yeah,
just on the
it's-
back lot
it was
of
very
Universal,
much like that,
or
yeah.
Grease Live. I mean, yeah, where
It
they're
was
just like,
the same exact time that came out.
yeah, I remember. Yeah, I remember. We watched Grease Live.
I did too.
Love
I've
Grease
watched
Live.
it recently on
event.
Paramount Plus.
Yes,
It is available.
Yes, indeed.
We could have done a movies that made me gay, even though that came out when I was 106.
But still.
it still made me gay.
Yeah.
It made me gayer.
Grease Live, Hairspray Live,
All of them.
all of them. That was a time in like
We got about halfway through Rent Live, and then we
Okay.
abandoned ship.
child.
Let's tie it in. Don't you think Donnie Darko would make a good play?
I
It
think
feels like a
I
play.
think it has
could
been
play-
adapted to a play.
It
Okay.
could be a musical.
I think
A
it has
Broadway
been-
musical. It could be a musical easy.
I
like
think
80s style
There
jukebox
has been
musical.
Sure.
I think it has been adapted to a play.
Okay, that makes sense because doesn't it have a certain theatrical quality to it?
Yes.
I mean, I want to see like the opening Tears for Fears school number on stage.
Yeah, all the whole chorus singing the song
Can
together.
we just talk about that montage.
Oh, the Mad World one?
Not the Mad World
Which one?
The one earlier in the movie when they're getting to school.
You don't like the...
Oh, that's so iconic.
You
It's
don't like
iconic.
that. You don't like that they're snorting coke in the middle of class.
First of all, Alex Greenwald
It's Speed.
Seth Rogen has like a Coke spoon.
Yeah, I know.
Like it's the 70s. And he hands it off to him in the across the hallway.
Yeah, there would be
in
no
front of
way.
like every student. They're in uniforms. Is this just a private school? Is it a Catholic school?
Yeah.
There's
Well, and
no...
also Donnie's sister goes to it, and she's in the 5th grade?
Yeah. Well, there's Catholic schools that go both. Like have the
Really?
elementary school and they'll go through
Okay.
high school.
And you know, this
Not very much.
Catholic school is in like Koreatown.
The school where they shot.
I was wondering.
It's
I was
Loyola.
trying to... Okay.
But it's not a Catholic school because, well, no, I was going to say because the mascot is the mongrels
The
or whatever.
mongrel.
But like we were just the Spartans.
We haven't even talked about what's her name? The like poor Asian.
Oh
student.
yeah, from White Lotus.
She's in White Lotus.
That's her.
That's her.
That is
Right?
amazing.
Mind blown.
And there's this current, again, I'm going to do this like obnoxious Kamala's niece. There's a current comedian who's quite popular on Twitter, an alt comedian. Her shtick is very similar to this performance. Her
Shut
name's
up.
like Meg Staltzer. Or
Her
Meg,
name is
you know that-
Jolene Purdy, the actress. That's
Okay.
she is Charita Chen.
Charita.
Charita.
Shut up.
And
She just keeps saying, "Shut up."
and those scenes remind me of something that would be in a Todd Solondz movie.
Yes.
Of that you see
Absolutely.
very realistic teenage bullying.
Yeah.
Which is something that you don't really see in movies now.
I think people are just sensitive to, depicting something that's like too real or whatever. But it's like shit happens.
Yeah, I feel like now it's pretty mean. It's pretty cruel how she's treated. They at least let Donnie sort of like be a little like don't lay off.
He
her.
gives her
He's like
he gives her the it gets better talk.
Yeah.
like, later on.
She has his name on her notebook at the end.
yeah, and she does a talent. She's a beautiful.
Oh yeah,
interpretive
that's
performance
right.
art.
See, this is why I think Jake works more than Jason Schwartzman because there's two instances of girls kind of like having a crush on him. When Drew says, "Pick the boy that you think is the cutest." I don't know if I pick Jason Schwartzman.
Oh, probably not.
You'd be like, "Who's that 5 nothing?"
Yeah. Yeah. And then Charita having Donnie's name on her books or whatever. It's like maybe because he stuck up for her, like you said, or like you said, Mike, when he's like tells the boys to like lay off or whatever. But yeah, I think it's just kind of like, all right, we understand that Jake Gyllenhaal looks how he looks. Like he just has this like face, right? So it's like you kind of have to acknowledge that he's like super dreamy,
Yes,
right? And like I don't know, Jason Schwartzman just
I agree. He's no Jake Gyllenhaal.
yeah.
I
So
mean-
sorry, Jason.
He just sort of looks like a cute little troll. I don't know.
Well, I mean,
Like a troll doll?
like sort of attracted.
Or like
I'm kind of attracted. I wouldn't say no after like a Miller Lite
Sure.
or two.
After Tecate.
But also Jake's iconic Halloween costume.
I was thinking about that because I was scrolling through some pictures earlier.
Jason couldn't have pulled that off.
I mean, yeah. I love. Is it a onesie? Is it like a?
It is
two-piece?
matching. I was like studying
Yeah.
it.
Is it
not
it-
only just
is it
the
a
shirt is
two-piece?
phoning it in.
Yeah.
The legs have bones on them too, and
Oh,
that's
yeah.
what sort of elevates it.
Yes, and then the
Heather
gri-
Gray
the Heather hoodie.
Heather,
yeah.
and it is sort of a subtle nod to ET, but it's
Yeah.
sort of like a true fashion moment where
Oh,
it's
it
like
is, yeah.
updating it. It's not like it's not just a like hollow reference. Nina Garcia, if she was Project Runway, she would have been like, "This is an amazing update. You reinvented the Elliot look from ET to
Yeah.
now. It's very of this moment. It's chic. It's
New
fashion.
millennium.
That's right. And Elliot is like he has like a skeleton look.
He does,
Yeah.
and
When he
it's
goes out
very,
trick or treating with
yeah.
ET.
And even, I mean, he wears a hoodie on the
Yeah.
bike, which you both were just recently at Universal Studios, and you were
indeed.
on the ET ride, which makes me so jealous.
Yeah.
It
was pretty amazing.
So,
ET doesn't say your
jealous.
name anymore, but you know.
It doesn't.
and I miss if your name wasn't like, Bob or Karen, he was good.
But would he
Do you
just-
remember how he would garble it?
But would he only say one person's name? There was like 8 people on that ride.
I feel like the
was just, like,
computer would
listing
say
them off.
each name, yeah.
That's so crazy.
And it was real fun when you'd have like a group of like foreign people behind you,
yeah.
and the computer's reading like, you're like, oh, the technology's not there for
Love
this
it.
ride.
I feel like there was like pine fragrances
Yeah.
as we're like flying through the forest.
Really?
Yeah, I think they like piped that in. Universal did that. They would do it on King Kong. They would have like
scent. I mean, yeah,
banana fragrance,
as they should.
Yeah,
it should smell like Reese's Pieces, peanut butter.
Oh yeah.
Our
broken electronics.
Our past guest Kelly, who was on, she was on our Baby Jane episode.
Mm-hmm.
She gave us the information that when they took the ET ride out of Universal, that Spielberg threatened legal action.
Good.
Yeah,
as he should have.
I would have been like, how dare you?
Yeah.
It is the highest grossing film adjusted for inflation of all time, more or less.
I mean,
it's up there.
It's a great movie.
It's
I
for
love
me.
E.T.
It is my favorite.
Go watch E.T., ladies and gentlemen.
I guess the Universal lot, and at least in Florida, they have so much land they can keep it. But here, it's like so cutthroat. They need that space.
They
But
need that
really,
real
what
estate.
they're turning to like a Minions. Like, what are they doing
I think
with
that
it?
it's the
Mummy.
It's the Mummy right now.
Which, I mean, the Mummy now, it's like you're referencing Citizen Kane. Like, that movie, like, who's watching the Mummy anymore? Ask a child if they've seen the Mummy.
Brendan Fraser's having a moment right now. I'll have you know. I will have you
They
know.
love him on
Is he?
TikTok.
Oh, do they?
They do.
I didn't know this.
He's having a moment. He was done dirty by the Hollywood system, and people.
He chose.
I mean, he's gonna be in something, right?
Is he in a big DC?
He's on a big DC show
Is
right
he
now.
allowed
on
to be
on
in front of the
HBO.
camera?
Well, the thing is, on the show he's on HBO Max, a DC show, it's a voiceover performance.
Great.
His character is like a CGI prosthetic hybrid, like the Thing from Fantastic Four kind of a deal,
Right?
Like a rock monster guy.
Yeah.
But I think he's going to be in front of the camera again very soon in something. I'll look it up.
Well, we're all rooting for him.
I'm rooting for
Yeah, of course.
my boy Brendan Fraser. Go listen to our Encino Man episode.
And the Mummy.
Should we talk about the mom? I love that we're just talking about the actors in it because
Yeah.
summarizing this plot.
No, there's no.
there's no
going through
point
the film,
of doing
like,
it.
Just
I think
watch
that-
it if you've never
I think
seen
Mary
it.
McDonald is doing some really good work in this movie, and I
Love
like how
her in
the
it.
parents and the therapist, played by Catherine Ross,
Love
like
the
how did they
therapist.
get Catherine Ross for the therapist? I have no idea. Like whose stroke of genius was that? Of that.
Her
Catherine Ross, yeah.
Her house is so weird and cool, strange and cool. Like I was studying it. She has like weird little table and the no makeup and
But
oh my God.
I think that how the parents are written, it's not like they're broad. Like they're just asshole parents.
No.
Like they're very sympathetic and they feel like your parents.
Yeah, the mom especially. The dad's a little bit not. He's a little bit of a jerk. No, the dad. The mom is like, she's the one when she's like has that moment with him, and he's like, how does it feel to have a like crazy person for a son? It's so sweet. It's like raw. There's a lot of like those touches of raw emotion in it that kind of give the movie dramatic weight.
Yeah.
Elizabeth will be in charge. She'll drive you to therapy. And if you need anything, you promise me that you will call Dr. Thurman.
How's it feel to have a wacko for a son?
It feels wonderful.
Yeah, and I mean she was definitely a kind of a get for this movie.
I mean,
Mary
she's
McDonald.
been 2-time Oscar nominated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do remember something that really stuck with me from her performance is just like the very end shot, montage of just her like smoking a cigarette.
Yeah.
Like out by
And
the-
she has that sort of connection with Jenna Malone. They both wave at each other.
Yeah, that's such a cool moment.
Yeah.
Well, and everyone at the end sort of has this deja vu of this past life that they've led, but they can't quite remember it, too, of when you get the final shot of everyone.
Yeah. But yeah, the mom character, she has moments when she kind of stands up to Beth Grant at the PTA meeting.
Yeah.
And so it's like they do establish that the parents are Republicans, but it's like we were saying, this like late 80s version of Republicans that is a little different.
They're a little genteel.
Yeah.
And they are a little snobby.
Yeah.
But they're also like, she's like she cares about her children.
yeah. And their education.
Yes.
And, just not being like closed-minded and all of that stuff.
They didn't say what her job was, right?
No, I don't think so.
No.
I love that she's reading Stephen King's
It. Yeah, that's such a cool moment.
That would be the question that I would have Richard Kelly of why is Mary McDonald reading it? Because I'm sure that there's like a lot of thought put into that.
Yeah.
Of why she's reading that
2
book.
years old at that time when it came out.
It would have just come out.
Yeah,
it would have been like a hit
pretty
book
new,
to be
yeah.
reading.
So just
and it's probably smart to reference King because he's sort of in that world of like gothic suburbs and like the supernatural.
Yeah.
It's one of those
paranormal,
like clever references peppered throughout the film.
Yeah,
and the music.
Yeah,
it's great.
Yeah, it's really good.
There's some definite bangers.
So it opens with Echo and the Bunnymen, Killing Time.
Yeah,
and then when you watch the director's cut does not open with that. And I remember when I did watch it, it was a little jarring. That I'm just so used to that when Donnie is biking down the hill, the Echo and the Bunnymen song starts. And the director's cut doesn't have it.
Interesting.
I was pretty square with music when I was in high school, and I think this was one of the first times I heard that Joy Division song that we opened the episode with.
And that comes on when Jenna Maloney is like at the Halloween party, and
she walks in,
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But then it changes songs too.
It goes
shortly.
to that really good song by The Church, Under the Milky Way.
That one, I love that song. I remember learning about that song through this movie. I had not heard that before.
Okay. My older sister had a MTV 120 Minutes compilation CD. And that song was
and the
on
church
it.
one was on it.
Yeah. That CD was fucking cool. It had that church song. It had like Bob Mould. It had It had Dear God.
I don't remember that one.
Oh God, that was
the church.
Yeah. I'll think about who sang Dear God. Dear God was in It. They used it in It Chapter 2.
But I do, Echo and the Bunnymen, I just forever associate them with this film.
Yeah, absolutely.
Of course, we have to talk about the Mad World cover.
That was also iconic.
That song definitely had a moment.
Two Tears for Fears.
That cover had a moment in the early 2000s.
Popular.
And I think that it charted in England, too.
That wouldn't shock me.
It was on everybody. All the hipster guys I knew. It was on their iPod.
Oh, I definitely put that on like a mix CD.
It was on their iPod on shuffle. And this 2001. God, was there even an iPod in 2001? Maybe not.
No,
oh, it would have been
like computer playlists.
It would have been like
burning. We were burning.
We were burning them.
It would have been like a mini disc.
Yeah,
and it has Notorious. That's the song the little girls dance.
Do you know the whole thing with that song, that Duran Duran song? It was originally shot and choreographed to Pet Shop Boys, West End Girls, and the Pet Shop Boys wanted too much money. Damn. So they just cut it together with Duran Duran.
I like
post.
it with Duran Duran.
Yeah,
I think
it's
better because, like, it's again like it's trashy and vulgar. Like it's speaking to the way the culture is moving into the like I don't know these little girls doing like their dance and it's tied to the Patrick Swayze. Like West End Girls would have been a little more like I don't know. I don't know that it would. I feel like it wouldn't work as well.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. The very first version of the iPod was released October 23rd, 2001.
Oh, wow.
I didn't
the month
know
this
that.
movie came out.
Wow. That's insane.
Can you believe this movie is 20 years old?
No,
that is insane.
I wouldn't guess that. Like, it doesn't feel like
it doesn't. I mean, it just feels like a movie from the mid 2000s.
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah, 2001. I mean,
that's a long. I mean, that's still in the like 90s Hangover era, but it doesn't because it's a period piece. It doesn't have really a whiff of the 90s in it.
Yeah.
So I think for that reason, in a weird way, it updates it more, where we're not as aware.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, if you watch, like, The Sweetest Thing or something, and you're like, what? We're like...
I almost wonder if they chose to put them in uniforms so they wouldn't have to dress them super 80s all the time.
Yeah, that's what April Ferry, the costume designer, said in those interviews.
There you go.
That's
it's a good
smart.
choice. Yeah. Because that also pulls it out of, like what you said, Scott, period movies now just fall into that trap of just like...
too much.
This like retro aesthetic, which was like, that's not really what anyone was wearing at that time.
Yeah.
But it just kind of telegraphs this like, oh, this is the 80s.
Like they don't tease out Jenna Malone's hair and make it big.
There was a funny Twitter meme recently about this where like they're like, this is what movies show, and it was like every like neon color and like this is what it really looked like, and it was like a drab brown McDonald's ashtray. And like, the 80s were so brown and drab.
Definitely. Because it was like a 70s hangover.
Yeah, you're a 70s hangover for a long time.
Yeah, people
much like Drew's earth tones that she wears.
Yes, indeed. Absolutely.
She's wearing shoulder pads in one scene, too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Drew, great performance in this
Great
movie.
performance, Drew.
So I guess we didn't really talk too much about Patrick Swayze.
I know.
Very clever casting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That I feel like when you put somebody as charismatic as Patrick Swayze is, it just immediately gives this character that's very disturbing some depth, if you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I feel like too that seems like the dream casting, and then you like write who you'll probably get, and that's the one you're like, I would kill if we could get, and they actually did. It feels like it's like wow.
And I mean, good for Patrick Swayze for reading this role, and most actors would be afraid to play a pedophile.
Yeah.
But he seemed pretty game to do something this different and out of the box.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's kind of making fun of... I don't want to say he's making fun of himself, but, he's sort of the, like, withered...
Did your school ever or did you ever have a teacher that would just show you videos and you're just like, what the hell?
Yeah, all the time.
And this is weird, like, new agey...
Yeah.
Teachings
that
you
game
saw
she played
a lot
too.
in
We
the
had
late
so
80s,
much weird shit like that, like where they'd call everyone to an assembly and they'd teach us like a weird dance that was supposed to help us like stay true to ourselves or something. You're like, what is the point of this? And so like when that happens, that doesn't feel that like broad. I'm like, this is unrealistic. I'm like, no, we would have had to do some sort of like weird arbitrary bullshit about like.
And it's really satisfying when you see Donnie call it out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, in Catholic school, there was stuff like that, but it was always like in religion class or theology class. So I was always just like, okay, well, this is just weird religion curriculum. And like, they're just being churchy and trying to teach us like Catholicism or whatever. So I just kind of figured, well, this is just our school being weird, and not thinking that like public schools would do something kind of crazy like that, thinking that like, well, the administration would definitely jump in and be like, what is this?
Right.
But I'm definitely hearing though that kind of shit
was not
actually
the
did go
case.
down. Yeah.
I'm sure that we did have it when I was a kid and I've just blocked it out.
I remember my freshman year of high school, we did a ton. I feel like there must have been some sort of studies or surveys about like kids are most vulnerable to dropping out or most vulnerable to like, I feel like every other week my freshman year of high school, I was doing some weird shtick like this where I was like, listening to motivational speakers and like these weird things like this.
Yeah, that's fucking high school, man.
High school.
I blocked out most of it.
Could you imagine getting up at 6:30 or 7 a.m.
That's what we did.
And going to school at 8 o'clock in the morning and just sitting there in classes seeing
Learning
the same
something.
people every single day until 3:30.
I want to say my high school started at 7:20.
Well, we had pre-period too, which if you did that, which I did because I was annoying. But like, I can't believe it. Do you remember what it was like to wake up as a teen that early? It was like miserable.
Yeah.
I hated it. I was like, I was obsessed with sleeping and wanting to sleep, and teens should be sleeping until like 9 o'clock. And
then when you go to college and you figure out, if I want to sleep in, I can plan my schedule that I can sleep in.
Well, yeah, but I like overdid it and
You
would miss
still
class all the time, and I just like lived in pajamas and ate cereal 3 times a day. But
sounds ideal.
But then
to
you
me.
self-correct after that too.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, my high school days started at 7:20, but it was done at 2:20.
Mm-hmm.
Oh wow!
So at least we had that.
I was on the high school swim team.
Oh shit!
So we would do morning practice. They started at 5:30 a.m.
Oh my god! So you would have to get up at like 4:40 in the morning.
I would
If
get up at 5
earlier.
a.m. and like run into my like little car and drive 15 minutes. I would get ready in like 10 minutes. I'd have the swim bag all ready to go, so I just would wake up,
and
brush
jump in
my
there.
teeth, and run out the door. It was miserable. I hated it. 5:30. It was so cold. And it was an outdoor pool.
Why did we do these?
It was
things
awful.
that we
And also, when
fucking hate it.
this might be too much information, but when you first would start, like when you work out at 5:30 in the morning like that so hard, I would get crazy diarrhea.
Oh.
Because your system isn't used to
Yeah.
And then
When
you're
you wake
swimming,
up,
so
yeah.
you were in a Speedo, so you go have diarrhea and you have to put it back on. So you diarrhea and you put a wet Speedo back on and you're just like hugging everything and you're getting back in a pool at like 6 in the morning. It's like 50 degrees out. It's like, it was,
Wow.
yeah.
Was this in California?
Yeah.
That's a lot.
That's a lot.
I thank you for listening.
Wow.
So, would you call Donnie Darko a good Halloween movie? I picked it for
Yes.
the October lineup.
Yeah.
Kind of the Halloween scenes always did stick with me as a young person, that we get the countdown and all of the title cards counting down the days until this Halloween party.
Yeah.
Definitely.
You know what else I really appreciate about this movie? The realism. Is that the Frank costume is so crazy, right? We've never seen a mask like this before. It's not a mass-produced, Halloween mask that you can go buy. And they show very subtly Frank in like a room, like sketches and stuff. So it shows you, he made that.
Yeah.
Like he made this himself.
Those are pickup shots that they
Yeah.
got pretty far into post.
Yeah, it's really smart that they
included James in that last shot of him covering the eye, and you get the
I didn't know that.
you get the sketches.
Because I just
Yep.
hate when there's stuff in movies that you're just like, where did they get that? Where did they commission this like fabulous prosthetic Halloween costume? It's like, no kid made that. So it's like to show that like he's like an artist and he sketched out the images and then he like sculpted it or whatever. I really appreciate that kind of stuff in a movie because I hate it when it's just like no one on earth that's not in like a movie prop house would be able to put this Halloween costume together.
Right.
So I love that. But yeah, definitely Halloween fair. For
Absolutely.
sure. I mean, I don't think anybody's ever replicated the Frank the Bunny costume.
No.
It's too,
I mean that
it's
that,
too much.
That mask is hard to replicate.
Yeah.
But I would go as Donnie Darko's Halloween costume is actually like a
that's a
good if you can you're kind of phoning it in but not.
Yeah.
It's recognizable.
Also comfy.
And comfy.
So,
and age appropriate. You can do it kind of well into adulthood.
A little movie
yeah.
trivia. Do you know who is Maggie in the Halloween party? Maggie Gyllenhaal?
Like what her costume,
Oh.
is supposed
Costume
to
is?
be.
No.
So I remember in high school listening to the commentary of this movie, and Richard Kelly says that is a reference to the woman who was with Peter Sellers' character at the New Year's Eve party in Lolita. That he's always with this mysterious woman with this like Betty Page like bangs in this black dress, and that's who she's supposed to be.
That feels very Maggie.
I don't think I ever, when I watched this, was just like, oh, she's supposed to be so.
I'll post a picture of it.
I just kind of thought she was like woman in wig.
Yeah, that's
just
kind
her
of an
Halloween
acceptable
costume.
Halloween costume when you just
Yeah.
like don't dress like yourself and
Yeah.
you're sort of from another era.
Woman in a wig.
Woman in wig.
Yeah, love it.
Sounds like a new thriller coming out. Like
yeah,
Woman in the Wig.
Woman in the
in
Wig.
Wig.
Yeah.
I would watch
a Netflix
it.
exclusive.
Who should be in it?
who would be the woman in the wig?
Woman in the Wig.
I mean,
Well, it would be Nicole Kidman, of course.
Well, I mean that's a little on the nose.
Woman in the Wig starring Alicia Vikander.
Okay.
Coming to Netflix.
Tell me more.
Yep.
I just want to see the Woman in the Wig starring Amy Sedaris, but
That would also be quite a movie.
well,
Is there anything else we?
No, I
talking
wish
about Donnie
I
Darko?
wanted to like tie Dear Evan Hansen into.
Oh,
that would be
I mean-
if there ever was a popular Broadway stage production of Dear Evan of Donnie Darko, and then they made a movie of that, a la Hairspray and the Producers, and then they would have Jake Gyllenhaal be Donnie Darko in that,
and he would just be like hunched over.
It would still
Like-
be less embarrassing.
It would still.
He would just be over. He would just be hunched
still
over
be
like
hot.
he's Nosferatu.
Yeah.
But would they give him the Marsha Clark wig?
Have you watched Dear Evan Hansen yet?
No, I haven't. I would have had to like go to a theater and pay money.
Yeah. Well,
I would say poor Ben Platt, but Ben Platt
No,
is
he's
like a
fine.
billionaire,
He's the opposite of
so
Paul.
he will be fine.
He's fine.
yeah.
Maybe he can be in the Donnie Darko Broadway musical.
I love it.
But like the dad.
I
mean,
still want
who's
Jake
he playing?
Gyllenhaal to be Donnie in the
musical
in the movie
Broadway.
version of the musical. That is
If
to come
there is
10
a
years
one,
from now.
what song? Like, what would be like a song number you would create? Would you create one for like when the bunny first meets him, when Frank?
Yeah, that would be a good one.
Yeah, you'd have to have a song for that.
I think Jenna Malone would have a real good like sad one about her mom and the dad, like and holding her books and
Oh,
walking down
you
the
don't even
street.
know Gretchen's real name. How depressing is that?
Yeah.
Oh,
Again,
'cause
that
they
whole
had to
story
change
you
their
want it to
name.
pay off more and tie in more. Like
Yeah,
because
like her mother,
missing.
her mother is missing at the end of the
He
movie.
fucking stabbed
Yeah.
her.
Yeah.
And like when she goes over to the Halloween party, her mom is just gone.
Or it felt like the film was setting up this red herring, but it was like play that up more. But it doesn't.
Yeah, but then she said that the stepfather stabbed the mother in the chest 7 times.
Yes.
And lived.
Mm-hmm.
Crazy.
So would the Asians? What's her name? The
Charita?
Asian student. She would get a number, a song.
She would
my
definitely get a
God.
number,
and it'd be
yeah.
about how much she loves Donnie.
Yes.
Well, she would get like
Unrequited.
2 numbers. She would have the talent show number,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and also like her.
It would be good. Oh, Beth's number would be so
yeah.
good when she's like real hyped
I
up.
mean,
like,
it would
on to
be like.
nationals.
I mean, it would be.
shutting down Graham
It
Greene.
would be. I doubt your commitment to Sparkle Motion.
Yeah, that would be so good. Oh yeah,
Yep.
that mom at the front door, that would turn into a musical number.
Yeah.
That would be good.
Wow, I think we're on to something.
I think
guys.
we might. I smell a hit.
I think we.
I smell money. I smell money.
Yeah.
We just need some backing for it. Drew,
Hey.
So call up Ben Platt's dad.
There you
Who's
go.
got his
Mark
you bet-
Platt, yep.
Wait, you know Jenny Lewis, second degree. We'll
There
get
you
Jenny.
go.
Let's see.
She could write the song.
I mean,
we're seeing Jenny Lewis open for Harry Styles in a few months, so we'll ask her when we go.
Yeah. I'll take a sign. I'll make a sign.
like we have a Broadway idea, Jenny. We want you to write the music
Got
for
a
Donnie
proposition for
Darko,
you.
the musical.
Yeah,
It'd be
yeah.
like, what's the Spider-Man one called? Like Turn Off the Dark.
Turn on the dark.
Turn on the dark.
Yeah. Oh boy. If only.
Well, you think there'd be like a giant plane? Like I want that, like
Oh,
the
like Phantom of the Opera.
Yeah, like,
Yeah.
Phantom of the Opera
it'll
style.
Be like
Yeah.
the plane wing thing.
The
falling.
big, the big jet engine just
That would be
collapsing
good.
onto the
And
audience.
like we mentioned earlier, we'll do let's make it Sentorama. Like
There you go.
Jet fuel or engine.
Smell-o-vision. I love it.
We're gonna pass out the glasses to the audience.
Oh yeah,
Yep.
yeah. That's a good little touch.
Oh man, listeners, do not steal this idea.
Oh yes,
Everyone out
this
there,
is copyrighted
this is a
already.
secret.
But like I said, I think this has been adapted to the stage, but I don't think it's a musical.
Not a musical.
Maybe they did one
Richard
of those.
Kelly, if you're listening,
I mean, call us.
contact us.
Yeah. Maybe they did one of those unauthorized musical parodies, but
At like the Rockwell.
you know how we feel
Yeah.
about those.
Yeah.
But man, do we have like you said, do we have anything else to before we wrap it up?
I think we've really like spoken our mind.
I mean, it's
Said our
like this
piece.
is like the ultimate movie about outsiders, and we
Yeah.
all feel like an outsider.
we do.
Yep.
Maybe you two too. Just kidding. I agree. I mean, this it definitely has lasted 20 years,
Yeah.
like for a purpose, you know.
Oh yeah.
So it's
and it's kind of a legit cult classic that
It is. It's a
like
cult
they were
classic.
not out to make a cult movie, but it just sort of found its audience with home video. Like all great cult movies that don't do that well theatrically, they're not really liked critically, and audiences just kind of find them.
Did we talk about how Seth Rogen's in it?
Yeah.
A little
In his
bit,
first line of dialogue is "I like your boobs."
Well, that's,
Oh, that's funny.
That's
Yep.
probably how Apatow found it.
Oh man, is this before or after Freaks and Geeks?
I think it's right after.
Wow. Okay.
Oh.
Makes sense. Interesting.
'Cause I think Freaks and Geeks was 99 and 2000.
Oh, okay. Okay. Sounds good. Well, yeah, there's a lot of fresh faces in this movie.
There and a lot of people that went on to
Yeah.
storied careers.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, we definitely recommend going out, looking this movie up. It's not on anything streaming right now.
It's on Tubi. That's
on
how I
Tubi.
watched it. You
There
have a
you
few
go.
commercials. I don't mind it.
Have you know? I mean, we've just sort of caught on to Tubi.
Love Tubi.
We've been
Tubi
watching.
too.
We've been watching
Recently.
old. We've been watching The Girls Next Door on.
I feel
Tubi.
like it's gonna go away soon. Like we need to embrace it.
Yeah.
How do they clear all those
Yeah.
music rights and have it? I like.
Well, I think like something like Pluto, I think is just owned by Paramount Plus.
Sure.
It's all the same shit that's on Paramount Plus.
But
on Pluto.
Tubi has I'm watching Angel, Angel 2, Angel 3. I'm watching stuff that's hard to find.
Like, do major studios know that it's streaming there?
Yeah.
Well, that's I mean, the studios now are so I mean, no one's in charge, and they're sending out they're sending cuts to the streaming services of I've seen Back to the Future 2 was the TV version that was on. You know what I mean?
Wow.
They just aren't paying any attention to their libraries that are. If something's more than 10 years old, they don't care.
Yeah. Well, go out and download Tubi while you still can, kids.
Tubi.
It's a free download on any of your tablets, mobile devices, and you can watch Donnie Darko with limited commercials.
Yeah, and we're gonna have a fun October.
Yes.
We have some great movies planned.
Yes, indeed. So thank you for sticking with us, Mike. That's been a lot of fun.
I always love when you come on.
I love it.
You're my favorite.
Invite me back, please.
We'll get to
will.
welcome home Roxy Carmichael eventually.
When
on
we
the
do
show.
that one, I might we need a box of tissues.
Oh, man.
It's gonna get emotional and raw. If you thought that diarrhea story was too much, if we start talking about Roxy Carmichael,
All right.
but
Well-
I am in the Halloween spirit. I'm in the fall spirit,
Sweet.
and I think that this film is what really kicked it off for me. I feel like Halloween season started today for me.
Absolutely.
I've been really wanting to get a pumpkin lately, but I feel like it's too early.
Nope.
We had our
We have our pumpkin patch out at work.
and we had our pumpkin spice pumpkin foam cold brews.
The pumpkin cream cold brews.
Those
Yep.
are really
Do you
good.
have a cinnamon broom?
Oh no, I've never had that.
think
The
so.
cinnamon brooms that they sell.
Oh, sure,
cinnamon
yeah.
broom, yeah,
You
yeah.
can
Broom.
Cinnamon
their
brooms.
their aroma is all over.
Okay.
TJ's right
Where
now.
I need to. I'm good.
You should bring a
I
cinnamon
usually
broom home.
don't buy the cinnamon brooms.
We never
but
buy
Oh, I
cinnamon
love
I
brooms.
always
Yeah.
go.
Cinnamon brooms.
Last year, I went all out with our porch just because we were stuck inside
Yeah.
all October. So I really decorated our porch.
Yeah.
So I'll walk down to the 99-cent store and get some.
And ladies
get
and
some
gentlemen listening, I will be posting pictures of my mother's Halloween decorations that she just put up today on Instagram and Facebook.
They look really good.
They look great, as always. She always goes all out with those
Aw,
decorations.
Mom.
So we'll be there on this Sunday to check them out in person. But I might just I might repost her Instagram post. But yeah, this has been a lot of fun. We'll definitely have you on for something else. Roxy Carmichael, we will wear our unlaced Doc Martens.
And eat
Ferrero Rocher.
Yeah, I can't say it.
Ferrero Rocher.
Ferrero Rocher.
And we'll all wear vintage pink cocktail dresses
Yes.
while we're doing it. But all right, man. Thanks for coming out. This was so much fun. And thank you so much for listening, everybody.
Thank
Another
you so
great
much.
episode in the can. And yeah, we're going to have a lot of fun.
I can't wait. I can't wait
Halloween.
for this October. I love this month.
Yes.
Especially on the podcast.
It's a great time of year. It's a great month. You know, it's cooling off here in sunny SoCal, thankfully.
I can't wait to decorate the porch.
Sweater weather.
Sweater weather, yeah.
Sweater weather.
Mhm.
Sweater weather, finally. I can put on those hoodies again. Love it. But I think it is about that time.
Patreon shout-outs?
Yes, indeed.
Yay.
We would just like to say a big hey, hello, and thank you so much to our good friends, SB, Nicole, Susan, Barry, JJ, Brandon, Leighton, Shelby, Merle, Michael, Charlie, Heather, Paul, Jamie, Drew, Jimmy, Genevieve, Dawn, Josh, Emma, Millie, Aaron, Melinda, and Jim, Jessica, Nick, and Shannon, Christine, and Rufino. Thank you so much, you guys.
Thanks so much.
Yes, indeed. You should head over to patreon.com/movies that made us gay to check out all of our fun additional content.
Mm-hmm.
We had a very big September here at Movies That Made Us Gay headquarters. We spent a week in Orlando.
Yeah.
We were at Universal Studios and Walt Disney World.
We're a little late on the commentary, but we are going to be doing it hopefully by the time this episode comes out.
Yeah, so
the new one will be out.
Yeah, so there should be a brand new commentary coming out.
I also think
tons of commentary.
I also think for October, I think we should try to do a few more.
Yeah, why not?
We watch movies anyways in October, so we might as well be on mic for it.
We'll just record some awesome alternative commentaries for all of you. You're also going to get a newsletter. You're also going to get a postcard handwritten from one of us. So check out our Patreon. And, if you can't subscribe monthly and you just want to make a one-time donation, you can do that. And for that entire month, you'll still have access to everything in that one tier. And then you just cancel it. And that's totally fine too. So don't think that you have to make any long-term commitment or whatever. You can always just join for a certain amount of time.
Yeah, definitely.
Listen to all the commentaries you can listen to in that 4 weeks and then just cancel it. Totally fine. We totally get it. But anything that you can drop is great. And we thank you so much. We would also love it if you head over to Apple Podcasts, like and subscribe.
Give us 5 stars.
It
helps us out get noticed.
Yes, indeed. And we would love any new reviews that you can leave for us. We actually had a new review recently. Scott, do you want to read that new review that we have? I have it up right now.
Sure.
It is from Apple Podcast listener Espionage.
I used to hate going grocery shopping. Now every time I tune into an episode with Pete and Scott, there I am laughing to myself as I choose a ripe melon and feeling that I have my 2 buddies helping me load my cart with Topo Chico. I love the banter, facts, and opinions. Thank you for inspiring me to revisit so many great movies.
Thank you so much.
That's so sweet.
And we love Topo Chico. Yes, so that is an Apple Podcasts review, and the title is Grocery Shopping Without ... because Apple doesn't show you the full title.
Lame.
Lame. So yeah, head over and do that. You can find us on social media. We're at Movies That Made Us Gay on Instagram and Facebook.
And Twitter, MTMUG Pod.
Yes, indeed. So go ahead and give us a follow, give us a like. And you can find me. My name is Pete. I am on Instagram and Twitter at Peter Lasagna.
I'm Oscar Scott on Twitter and Scott Youngbauer on Instagram and just Scott Youngbauer on Letterboxd.
Yes, indeed. So go find us there. Thank you so much, everybody, for listening one more time. We'll see you next week. Bye.
Bye.